Hello guys, and welcome to my new video. Blizzard has made some class changes before the raid release. It is a little bit uncommon, but here we are guys. Resto Shaman vesper totem has been nerfed. I think a lot of people were expecting something like this. We'll talk about the impact of this nerf. We'll talk about what covenants are looking strong. What does it change basically? But we're gonna start off with Mistweaver Monk. Mistweaver Monk has received a buff, even though most people probably don't even know about this because this was an undocumented nerf that happened at 9.2. At the start of 9.2, there was an undocumented changes happening to Fallen Order in terms of how many enveloping mist the clones would cast, and it was capped to 1, which was a nerf. Before 9.2, there was also Sinister Teaching CDO or cooldown reduction nerf, which is still in place. But Blizzard, and you can read this developer note, it's actually very interesting because there's a lot of behind the scene things happening in terms of Fallen Order. I honestly think Fallen Order has become such a spaghetti code kind of ability that I'm not even sure where Blizzard wants to go with this, but it is a reversion of a nerf, and Fallen Order is better. It is better right now. If you're running Ventier in raid, you will be doing more healing because Blizzard has accounted for the fact that Ventier was getting bashed a little bit too much. So what is this going to change? What legends are going to be running? What covenant choices are going to be strong at the start of 9.2 in terms of the new raid release? Let's go and have a look. So I know a lot of people who are preparing for the new raid in terms of their Mistweaver Monk, they're probably still going to be running Ventier. Even if they didn't look at the reversion of nerfs, Ventier was still looking like a decent option. This is just an indication of how strong Ventier was before. Ventier took 2 huge nerfs. Actually, you probably would say 3 huge nerfs because they also fixed the way that Misraps interacted with Fallen Order. They took 3 huge nerfs, and Ventier is still a viable option. And a lot of people are probably still going to be running Ventier, especially before they get the 4-set bonus. So, if you're running Ventier, I'm probably going to be running Ventier in the new raid, especially with this change. I'm going to be running a similar build to like, Theodar is very, very strong, mainly because of the fact you have Token of Appreciation is really strong. I think Party Favors is pretty decent, so I think Ventier is still going to be a very popular option in the new raid. I think you're going to be running Ventier, something like a similar build to this. Again, give or take, depending on your choices, basically. But I think this is a pretty solid option. And the main thing that this reversion of nerfs could impact is the solo legendary. When you only can use a single legendary, what legendary should you run? And Sinister Teachings legendary is definitely something that's going to climb in value because Fallen Order has become a little bit better. But is it going to be the main option for a lot of the Mistweavers? Probably not. And again, this is something that I'm going to test out. I'm going to be running Ancient Teachings of the Monastery in the raid because I do think Ancient Teachings can provide a significant amount of HPS if you can run it properly. I love the Fist Weaving build, and I still think this is a very, very competitive legendary to run in raids, even with the buff to Fallen Order. So I'm going to be running Ventier, I'm going to be running Ancient Teachings of the Monastery, I'm going to be running Theodar. This is my build, this is my gear that I'm going to be kind of optimizing. And again, a welcome change to Mistweavers. Fallen Order, Ventier was getting bashed way too much. Then once I get my 4-set bonus, I have been grinding out Necrolord, and I definitely advise people to try out and, you know, get Necrolord up in there because with the 4-set bonus, with Thunder Focus Tea, there's going to be a lot of cheesing because you're going to get these burst windows, and these burst windows, how do I say, they lend themselves to being cheesed because there's a lot of abilities that you can buff, you can squeeze in those, you know, 4-set windows. And I probably will swap to Necrolord Bone-Dust Brew once I get the 4-set bonus, just to test it out, just to see how it goes. The only thing that disadvantage of Bone-Dust Brew is the fact that it has a relatively small range. If you look at the range, again, if you're somewhat spread, this can be an issue. So that's the main thing, that the drawback of this Covenant. But with the 4-set bonus, I think it's going to be quite interesting and quite fun to play. I'm going to be running Emni. This is probably going to be the build that I'm going to be trying out. And again, this is gonna be after a couple of weeks in terms of how lucky I get. But this is my plan. Ventier at the start, Necrolord later down the line, especially on stack fights. I might even try out Necrolord just in this raid just to see or practice, because I do think the Necrolord Bone-Dust Brew requires additional practice, especially if you've been playing Sinister Teachings, Fallen Order, Ventier build for a long time. Let's be honest, that build made you probably a worse player because it's just click and forget. And now you get Bone-Dust Brew, which actually requires some thought and process, especially with the 4-set bonus. Thunder Focus Tea has a 30-second cooldown, Bone-Dust Brew has a 1-minute cooldown. You need to make sure to align them properly, but that's coming down later down the line when you have the 4-set. So again, I'm excited about the buff to Mistweavers. Do I think they need more buffs? I think they need to be looked at in Mythic Plus content to a large extent. Blizzard is forgetting Mistweavers in Mythic Plus completely. And that's something that's really upsetting to me because I'm looking to push Mythic Plus, but let's go to Resto Shaman. So let's go and check out Resto Shaman. So the bonus damage from Raging Vesper Vortex, which is your Kyrian legendary, accounts for majority of the damage in Mythic Plus content, has been reduced by 35%. What does this mean? Kyrian is not meta, Resto Shaman dead? Absolutely not. This change, honestly, it's not irrelevant, but it changes absolutely nothing in terms of the covenants that you're going to be using in Mythic Plus, the legendaries that you're going to be using in Mythic Plus, and the power of Resto Shaman. Power of Resto Shaman is still very much an S tier type of Mythic Plus healer, because let's be honest, majority of people are going to be running Kyrian in Mythic Plus because of the fact that Vesper Totem is just so powerful. I know there will be some Resto Shamans in high-end content that would consider running Kyrian for extra damage in raid, but majority of people are playing Kyrian in Mythic Plus. Let's go and see how this might impact your performance. So this is my Resto Shaman, this is Kyrian, and again, Forge Light Prime Mechanicos, Effusive Anno Accelerator, absolutely insane combo in Mythic Plus. The cooldown reduction, the damage that it provides is pretty much unmatched in terms of other healers, and again, it's getting nerfed. Or at least not Mechanicos is getting nerfed, but Kyrian Legendary is getting nerfed. So when 3 charges of Vesper Totem are consumed, Vesper Totem will radiate a 15-yard burst of damage and healing. I don't know how many people remember, but back in the day, I think it was like start of 9.15, Kyrian was actually, or this Legendary, made Kyrian one of the most popular, or one of the options to run in terms of healing and damage. Because it was absolutely insane how much healing and damage it would do. And before the raid released, or before the patch was released, Blizzard nerfed this legendary by 50% in terms of the healing that it provided. So I fully expected that Blizzard was going to nerf the damage portion in 9.2 by 50%. They did it by 35, which again, I fully expected a bigger nerf, honestly, because historically speaking, Blizzard has done this before. And what is this going to change? Based on my logs, I'm looking at like 10% overall DPS nerf in like Mythic Plus content. Again, this is based on my logs, give or take depending on your playstyle. How is this going to impact Resto Shamans and Mythic Plus? You're still looking as being one of the strongest Mythic Plus healers in terms of the damage you provide, in terms of the utility that you provide, in terms of the healing that you provide. It's still very... Resto Shaman, don't delete Resto Shaman. Resto Shaman is still looking very strong. But I do have to say, with a pinch of salt, people are overestimating by a large amount in terms of the amount of damage the Deep Tremor Stone is going to do. The main power component of Resto Shaman is going to come from the fact that you're going to have double legendary power spikes. When you have double legendaries, you're going to be running Kyrian, you're going to be running Deep Tremor Stone. Now, Deep Tremor Stone is one of those legendaries that has an insanely high variance in terms of how much damage it can provide. If you can use Deep Tremor Stone on trash AoE pulls, it's going to be absolutely wild. If you're going to use it on a single target, it's going to be a little bit more toned down. Now, if you use it on a trash pull and Deep Tremor Stone or Earth Elemental is going to pull aggro, it dies, 5-minute cooldown wasted. This is why I think people are really overestimating the average Resto Shaman overall damage in Mythic Plus. I'm not saying it's going to be bad. I'm saying Deep Tremor Stone, Kyrian, Legendary, even if you use it on single target, you're still a top DPS healer at the end of the dungeon. So I do think a lot of the times people do over-exaggerate in terms of the Earth Elemental power, because I do think that in really organized groups, in like, again, you're running a Guardian Druid is popping Incarn, they have infinite aggro, yeah, popping Earth Elemental is probably going to be a pretty good choice here, and it's going to do a ton of damage, especially on the trash pack pulls. But if you're running with a different tank, especially a tank that needs to consistently kite because they cannot face tank, using Earth Elemental is going to be dangerous. And even in high fortified keys, if Earth Elemental just looks at a mob in the wrong way, it's instantly one-shot. So that's something to consider. I'm still saying the Resto Shaman is going to be the best Mythic Plus healer. It's still providing the most damage, it still has a lot of healing, it still has a lot of utility, and the meta in terms of legendaries is still looking the same. But it's going to be doing a little less damage. Now, in terms of hypotheticals and what could happen, this is the first change that Blizzard announced at the start of the Heroic Raid tier, in terms of the new raid coming out, which is a little bit weird because they usually do it at the end of the week. What happens if there's going to be more nerfs? What happens, let's say for example, if they nerf Kyrian a little bit more and all of a sudden Kyrian might not be the way to go, you still have a very solid option with Ventier. Ventier Resto Shaman in Mythic Plus is pretty fun to play, especially with the fact that their Covenant specific legendary has been buffed in terms of providing additional CDR from your Flame Shock crits. Seems pretty nice. But in terms of the second legendary, it's still all about the Deep Tremor Earth Elemental legendary being a pretty much a lock-in piece in Mythic Plus content. I have tested out a lot of legendaries in terms of Elemental Equilibrium. This legendary is gonna put off tons of people if it ever becomes meta, because it requires a specific scientific rotation that you need to prepare every time you're going to be using your Vesper totem. These are all hypotheticals. I still think even if Kyrian gets nerfed even further and all of a sudden Vesper totem is not a thing, you're still gonna have Ventir as a nice backup for Mythic Plus. Ventir has nice support towards, you know, the group's DPS with Wasteland Propriety. You're getting more chain harvest procs because, or chain harvest cast because of your legendary. So there's nothing to be scared about, even if the worst case scenario happens. Right now, I will still stick with Kyrian. I will still stick with Earth Elemental Deep Tremor, and it's still going to be doing a lot of damage. You're the only healer that has Interrupt, which is actually insane in Pugs, in carrying Pug groups. It's crazy. Your Stun Totem, honestly, Resto Shaman is still a very much a god tier healer. But this indicates that Blizzard knows about Vesper Totem, because I think a lot of people, Resto Shaman community, was kinda hoping that they're gonna dodge a nerf. We'll see if there's going to be further changes to Kyrian, because right now Resto Shaman is still looking like a very strong option both in Mythic Plus and raid situations. In terms of my preparation for the raid, I'm probably going to be running Necrolord for the time being. I might actually, and again, pinch of salt, I might actually try out Night Fae, because if I'm running heroic normal content with 30 people, additional Healing Tide totems are gonna have insane value, because you have to remember, Healing Tide totem heals the same in a 10-man group that it does in a 30-man group per person. So the more people you have, the more healing from Healing Tide. And I might try and cheese some of the logs in terms of Resto Shaman, in terms of Night Fae, but that's just my suggestion in terms of what I'm doing. At the end of the day, most likely with the single legendary as a Restoration Shaman, I'm going to be running Necrolord, I'm going to be running Primal Tide Core, probably going to be crafting it on a Helm piece because it's a guaranteed socket and high stats. And these are my kind of suggestions in terms of what I'm doing. You don't have to follow them because it really depends on the content you're doing. Guys, let me know how you feel about this video. Let me know how you feel about the changes to Mistweaver, the nerfs to Resto Shaman. Should there be more changes? Should other healers receive buffs? Leave your suggestions in the comments. I'm going to try and read them, and I'll see you in my next video.